Have any of you felt like this pan at times during this pandemic? Burnt out, empty? Have you ever felt like these kernels of corn, dried out and lifeless? What I'm saying is that we light a little fire in our lives, and that fire is humor, so that we can be all puffed up by the value of laughter. So I bet there's one question that none of us could have answered back in 2016, and that says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But none of us could have imagined being in the middle of a pandemic. With this pandemic, it's wreaked havoc with us. We miss our family and social gatherings and travel, and we react to all these restrictions with anger, anxiety, and sadness. So it seems like we just kind of want it to go away. We sit kind of in a waiting room for happiness. We're here, but we want to be there. But today I'm going to discuss why humor is a gift to yourself and to others to help move out of that passive stance. In my 45 years as a psychiatric nurse, I could see the transformative power of humor to break through stress. Much like when you're carrying a heavy parcel and you're going down the street and you can't go any further, you put the parcel down and take a rest, and then you can pick it up and go again. And that's what humor allows you to do. The other thing is our thinking. So one of the greatest weapons against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And that's why I'm going to introduce hat therapy, which is a way of recognizing unhelpful thoughts, like the type of hat that you're wearing. For example, the firefighter's hat, or the psychic's hat, or the doom and gloom. And I'll explain those later. But there's two hats that are helpful, and that is the detective and the humor hat. And again, I'll discuss those as we go along, but I think you'll get some good tips there. So George Bernard Shaw said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So I was going to talk about some ways that you can just find that inner child and learn how to play, bring back some play. How many of you feel like your patience is completely on empty? You're tired of all the restrictions. You're tired of having home haircuts and looking like Boris Johnson. One day you're at home and you're making banana bread and happy, but the next day you're upset, feeling down, and eating ice cream all day. In fact, they're calling this Corona 20, not Corona 19, because of the extra 20 pounds that we've all put on during this pandemic. In fact, I see my buttons doing some social distancing. So if you look, here's a little stress test, and you look at these patterns, they're not actually moving, but if you see them moving, that usually means you're stressed. So if you see them moving, you're in the right place. The other thing about stress is there's that mind-body connection where you have some physical problems. You can't all be like this dog and feeling so calm. In fact, he's kind of a magic dog. I call him Labracadabra. But in the mind-body connection, you would have maybe headaches, stomach aches, some dizziness, and you may have some psychological problems too, like feeling down, like this fellow. Or you may feel out of focus, just feel you can't concentrate, and you start to worry about the hereafter all the time. Every time you go into a room, you think, what am I hereafter? Or you may just feel irritable and out of sorts like a wet cat. How many of you just feel so overwhelmed you don't even know where to start with all of this? But what happens is a lot of people get into this happiness waiting room. I'll be happy when this is all over. I'll be happy and I can get together with people again. Do you see yourself in this waiting room for happiness? And many of us feel that there's nothing that we can do to decrease the stress. So we just kind of wait there and hoping for things to improve. However, this passivity creates a sense of helplessness and we kind of feel stuck. But there's some good ways to become unstuck. So instead of just sitting in the waiting room for happiness, we can move out of there by initiating some changes. Like this fellow on the trapeze. He's leaving one trapeze, which is familiar, what we're always used to, and he's going for the other trapeze, which is something new. So that that taking that leap feels very strange. But once you take that leap and you make the changes, you feel good. You feel like you're in charge. So we need to find some ways to have some fun, to connect with others, and make the best of our situation. So, how to do that is through a few ways, and one of them is through technology. And people are using a lot of technology to connect with other people. So, you could have to stay home, but there's no reason that you can't be together. So, you can have watch movies together, you can have wine tastings, book clubs, playing games, having bridge games, have armchair travel. Even our ukulele group gets together once a week to strum together. So using technology, if you don't feel comfortable, see if you can get someone to help you work with it because it's very powerful. Another thing that people are doing is having interesting birthday parties. And my friend, her 5-year-old granddaughter actually, was having her fifth birthday party, and she's a big fan of the movie The Wizard of Oz. So they had everybody in the party dress up as one of the characters in the movie, and they even had a script. And they even had the little dog Toto. So they all played this out, and people were able to participate from far away. And it turned out to be one of the best parties that this little girl had ever had. And my son-in-law, Gio, who's from Colombia, recently had a birthday party where people joined in from all over the world. He was so touched, and it was fantastic. So, I mean, people can be creative. You don't have to just wait to celebrate for their next birthday. You can celebrate now. And people have being very creative. There's one woman in Victoria that she has two chalkboards out in front of her house where every day she writes corny jokes for people as they walk by. For example, why do they tell actors to break a leg? Because every play has a cast. Or why does skeletons, why are they so calm? Well, because nothing gets under their skin. So again, they're corny jokes, they're groaners, but they give people a smile. And a group of students in Calgary came up with this plan for seniors to call in. It's a joke hotline, and they're getting 400 to 500 calls a day. And they're corny jokes like, what did one hat say to another? Oh, you stay here and I'll go on ahead. So again, they're corny, but they give people a lift, a laugh. Now you can call there too. I'll give you the number, and I'll repeat it at the end as well. It's 1-877 Joy for All. So give it a whirl. So again, all these ways we can connect. Even the Hamilton Library has a movie club. I thought I'd mention. You can watch the movie and then discuss it online. So there's all kinds of ways that we can connect. But if you're not keen on technology, there's other ways we can connect as well. How about just taking your chair outside where you live, and as people go on their walks, you can wave at them and give them a smile. It's a way of connecting. And how about using the old-fashioned telephone? And I know people say, I don't want to call anybody, nothing good's happening, I don't have anything to say. But you could ask people, well, what's one of the funniest things that's ever happened to you? And you can tell them one of yours. So again, just reaching out, making a point of connecting. People make a list of old friends and people they haven't seen and had never had time to connect with, and call one or two of them a week to make that connection. And the other thing is, how about writing an old-fashioned letter and enclosing a little joke or a little clipping from the newspaper? Or how about some of those old photographs that you've got, enclosing a few of those in envelopes and mailing them out, giving somebody a little bit of a lift? And just sending out some cards. People love cards, and see if you can find some funny ones. If not, just look for things to enclose in the cards. So it's all about, we don't have to just sit in that waiting room for happiness. We just have to be creative. And I'm sure you could come up with some other ways too that just make that connection with others and uh, move out of that waiting room for happiness. So one of the ways we talked about is to use humor. The reason that humor is so important is because it allows for the bifurcation of emotion. And what that means is if you present a very strong emotion and you add humor, it neutralizes it. And why that is good is because it allows us to respond and not just react. And I'll give you some examples. The thing that can help with is anger and anxiety. And one fellow was going to call the complaint department of this store. He was so upset he could hardly talk. He was just fuming. The complaint department said, "Good morning, complaint department. How have we managed to destroy your day?" And he smiled. So he could respond better than just kind of blowing up and reacting with anger. And the other thing about anxiety, it again helps neutralize it so you're not so immobilized. A woman going for a job interview, she had a little inner voice saying to her, "Oh, you're going to forget everything you have to say. It's going to be terrible. They've got a million other people that they'll hire before you." Well, she imagined this little inner voice as a little devil sitting on her shoulder, and she'd take her fist and go, "Take off, eh?" So it made her smile, and she could relax a little bit so that she could figure out what to do on her interview. The other thing about humor, it allows you to bend, go with the flow, and to bond with people. And bending and going with the flow, an example of that is a company had their office situated very close to the train track. And every time the train went by, the building would shake and everybody get all mad and upset. Well, somebody had the ingenious idea to add a little humor and fun. So they put out a bowl of chocolate in the office. And when the train went by, and only when the train went by, they'd all shout, "Train time!" And they'd run and have a little bit of chocolate. So it got to be fun. They actually looked forward to that train coming. So, there's a lot of things that we can't change, but we can change our perception. And to talk about bonding, you think about the people where you feel the closest to, probably where you can share some smiles and some laughs. Think about your family. When you tell the same old stories over and over, they're usually funny ones that make you feel close and connected. For me, this is my parents, and we're like that too. We tell stories about our parents. My mother was French Canadian, and she got her words and expressions often mixed up. And one night she got home from a concert and she said she was overwhelmed by the standing ovulation that singer got. And then she'd say to my dad, "Come on, let's go out on the patio and have some Coca-Cola." So again, we have all kind of adopted some of her words. We often say we're overwhelmed by things. So one day when I was there visiting, they lived in a little town called Brockville, which is on the St. Lawrence River. And they had a street in front of their house. And my dad said, "Get a load of this guy out here. He's fishing, but not into the river. He's fishing into the street." So me working in psychiatry thought I should say hello. "Well, how you doing?" "Oh, great." "Well, how many have you caught today?" I said. He said, "You're the eighth." Ha! That's a joke on me. So again, this is those stories that we tell over and over. The other thing about humor, it gives you a sense of control. You say, "Well, at least I can laugh about this." You feel a distance from it. Like if you say, "Oh, that's a bunch of 2020," we start to think, you're a little bit distant from that problem. The other thing about control, there's a lot of things that annoy us, and we get all agitated, especially with other people. So if you can use a thing called silent humor, that means it only has to be funny to yourself. If you can predict how many times someone's going to annoy you and make it a game, you can actually just write it down. And if you predict how many times they annoy you and you get it right, you give yourself a little present. Again, it's one of those things sometimes we can't change, but we can change how we react to it and we can change our perception. So you can see that humor is pretty darn powerful. So we talked about the thinking patterns that create stress, and I'll just explain there's some unhelpful thinking patterns. And the first one is that of the firefighter. Wearing this hat, it's like the fireman jumping down the pole, jumping to conclusions. Everything's a catastrophe. A lot of rules. Should do this, you should do that. It's not a helpful type of thinking. How about this one, the psychic? Wearing this hat, you think you can read people's minds or you can tell the future. In fact, I think it's odd we never see a headline psychic wins the lottery. No way. The other hat that's unhelpful is the doom and gloom hat. And wearing that hat, oh, you pick out the things that are going wrong. Could be 10 things happen in a day. One of them's not right, but the whole day's shot. Oh, it's terrible. So, and also they're very hard on themselves. Oh, she's disappeared. um, Very hard on themselves and always looking at what they did wrong, never quite happy with what they've done. But the two hats that are helpful are that of the detective. And an example of all of these hats, if we go back a bit there, if you look at these hats, if there's an old friend that walked by down the street and didn't speak to you wearing that firefighter's hat, you say, jump to conclusions. Oh my gosh, he's mad. There's something wrong. The catastrophe. Oh, it's terrible. This is awful. Wearing the psychic hat, you'd say, oh, I know what that person's thinking. He thinks he's better than me or he's mad. And wearing the doom and gloom, well, you'd say, well, everything that's what's happened with people. You just can't trust people, and that's the end of that. But as we're talking about the helpful hats, if you wear the detective hat, it's not like thinking just happy thoughts or positive thinking. You ask yourself questions like, well, how do I know for sure? Well, what's my evidence? Well, in fact, this friend, maybe he didn't have his glasses on. And wearing the humor hat, you might say, well, why is everything about me? Am I a member of the Overreactors Anonymous group? Oh, maybe he's got his mind on a hot date. Well, in all of these thinking patterns, your behavior would be very different. In the first three, the unhelpful, you just slink away and avoid that person. But wearing the detective and the humor hat, you might actually go up and say, hey, how are you doing? But it would change your behavior. The thinking is so powerful. The other thing, you find yourself in a position where you just can't get out of that worry cycle. It's going on and on and on. Uh, I'm just going to suggest this little song. And Adrian and I ran a humor conference for 18 years. And I'm just going to show you a little video of us teaching this song. So maybe you could sing along. It's not a lot of words to learn. Honestly, just moving your hands like this, you'll see it. Just a sec here. Nothing I can do, nothing I can do about it now. Everybody. Oh, there's nothing I can do about it now. There's nothing I can do about it now. There's nothing I can do, nothing I can do, nothing I can do about it now. So why don't you try that little song? Not a lot of words to learn, but honestly, you're going through your day and you think, why did this happen or what's going to happen? Just throw your hands. There's nothing I can do about it now. The other thing about humor is really to open your eyes to it. It's there. It's much like when you're looking for your glasses and gosh, they're right on your head. They're right there. Just open your eyes and start to look for humor. How about any people think their dog looks like their owner? Anybody of you that's a bird watcher? Any of you been to the eye clinic for eye surgery? Have you ever seen the parking lot out in front of the eye surgery clinic? I saw this on one of my walks. I thought that somebody had a pretty good sense of humor. And how about this with Arnold Schwarzenegger? I'll be back. And the change, oh, my back. So the other thing is to reintroduce some play into your life. Bring back some purpose of play and having some things around, some props. I've got this foam hammer. If I'm tired of listening to the news, I can tap the TV or I can tap myself with, or I've got this thing that say, whoo, I got an idea. So having some things around that are kind of fun. And of course, everybody, like, magic wand. And here's another one I have. What men really know about women. And there's not a single thing written there. So just having some things around that you can give you a laugh. And how about collecting a humor file? And that's a file where you've looked for things, you've collected them, could be clippings from the newspaper, funny cards, things that give you a lift. And when you're feeling down, you could go to that humor file and have some fun. Get that get that or have a humor first aid kit, things that you know that are going to make you smile. And just taking play seriously because it allows you to change some of your behavior. So here's another thing with play, and it's 4 tips. The first one is when you get to go when you do the laundry, when you're going to put it in, you say, "Wow, I get to do the laundry! Whoopee!" And when you finish the laundry, you take it out. Ta-da! So as you go through your day, give yourself a lot of ta-das. When you make yourself some toast, ta-da! And honestly, just gives you that little lift you need during the day. The other thing is to dance. Put the tunes on, your favorite tunes. Grab that fridge handle and dance with the fridge or dance in front of the mirror. Just give yourself that change of behavior and some movement. How about, uh, well, sorry about this. How about having some meals with themes? So if you're having an Italian meal, you could put out the tablecloth Italian, put some opera on, the candles, make it an occasion. You know, even if you're having hot dogs, you can put on some cowboy hat and cowboy music and make it an occasion. One couple I know, they cleaned out part of their garage and put out a carpet and a table and a candelabra. They can't go to restaurants or go away, but they can go out there and have a coffee. It gives them a smile and a little change of scenery. So here's another one that you can do during the day. Just say what bothers you and twirl at the same time. Just give it a whirl. So those are some ideas that you can just change your behavior and change how you're feeling. Don't forget your ta-das. So we all know that laughter is a reflex that allows you to to relax. It brings you into the moment. It's like an instant vacation. But the biggest thing that we could realize or know about is that even a smile makes you feel better. And I'd like you just to do a little experiment just now. So just try a frown. Just try a frown right now and look around. See how that makes you feel? Sort of irritable? Just take your hand and erase that frown and put on a gentle smile. So sometimes the fake smile turns into a real smile. Can you see the difference though in how that relaxes you? So if you're feeling uptight, you can and you can't go outside for some reason, you just can open the window or go to the front door, take a deep breath and smile. And that smile will just help you relax. It's very powerful. And you know, just changing some of your behavior too, as we were mentioning, can make a difference in how you feel. But just do some experiments. If you can put your hands down like this and your saddest face and you say, "I'm so happy." Try it. "I'm so happy." Try the opposite. Your hands in the air with a big smile. "I'm so sad." Hey, you're saying one thing, but you're getting the message the other way, right? So here's another one. Try this. If there's somebody there with you, or if you're thinking of somebody, tell them that you really like them, but give them a dirty look at the same time. Just try, "I really like you." Again, these are just experiments to show you that your behavior is actually affects how you feel. So, in summary, then, to use a corny joke to end with, what lies on the bottom of the ocean and shakes? A nervous wreck. So you don't have to be a nervous wreck. You can move out of that waiting room for happiness. Take charge with humor. Go from passive reacting with anger and anxiety and sadness to active responding, calming yourself with humor. Remembering hat therapy, how to challenge your thinking. Remember the 3 unhelpful thoughts patterns, that of the firefighter, that of the psychic, and the doom and gloom all bring you down and make you anxious. The 2 helpful hats are the detective hat, looking for evidence, and the humor hat. How can I take aim and reframe? How can I see the situation with humor to give me some sense of control? Remember the singing. There's nothing I can do about it now. Not a lot of words to learn, but try it out through the day. And of course, just increasing your awareness, looking for that humor, collecting things to put in your humor file. So you've got some things to give you a break during the day. Remember to play. Try dinner with having a big theme, or just going through the day with your whoopies and ta-da. Again, it'll change how you feel. And remembering just the power of a smile, just remembering that smile throughout your day. So I'm just writing the note here, or I'm just writing down the number of where you can call for that group in Calgary if you want to call and hear a joke. 1-877-JOY for all. So give it a whirl. And one thing else I would recommend is, how about watching the documentary Laughing and Crying, which you can see on CBC Gem, where they actually explore every single aspect of laughing and crying. And I think you'd enjoy that. So, in conclusion, we say there's not a lot of fun in medicine, but there's a lot of medicine in fun. Thanks very much, everybody, and I hope you can find some ways to lighten up.